Yeah, there we are. Brilliant. Slight technical hitch. Good afternoon all and welcome to the Vale Glamorgan Council's Cabinet meeting of today, the 1st of May 2025. I'm Councillor Liz Burnett and Chair of the meeting as the leader of the Vale Glamorgan Council and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources. We are, as usual, using the Council's hybrid platform, although I think all except one of us are in the room today. And the usual reminders that the meeting's being live streamed and recorded and will be uploaded to the Council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. Participants in the chamber should ensure that their microphone is not activated. And the remote attendee should mute themselves when not speaking to avoid any background noise or feedback. To speak, if you're online, either use the request to speak or raise hand function. We're only going to use the chat function to highlight any technical issues or attract the attention of the Democratic Services Officer, or in my case, I will turn to my left and talk to him. But that's today's arrangement. We can move on to the agenda proper. And first of all, have we got any apologies for absence? I don't think we have because everybody's here, so that's fine. Then agenda item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of April. If we can take those as a true record, I move.
And I'll second that, Chair. Sorry, that was...
Yes, that wasn't quite working.
Yeah, I'll second that. Sorry.
Thank you. I don't believe we've had any declarations of interest, but if we could just check. Yeah, we do.
Sorry, I got engrossed there in the agenda. The item refers to the asset transfer that's Llantwit Major. I am a town councillor as well, so I'm double-hatted. So whilst it is prejudicial, I've got dispensation to speak and vote. Thank you.
Super, thanks, Eddie. So moving on to agenda item 4, this is the first of 4 references, and the first is a reference from Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee on the 3rd of March. And if we have a look at this, there are a range of comments which will be included when we cover the report under agenda item 8, when it's one of our actual reports. And so if you're happy to, I would move that we note the comments.
Yeah. Do you need me to formally second? Yeah. Sorry, yes, and I'll formally second that for the record.
Thank you. And everybody's in agreement to that. Just checking, for some reason my screen has maximised everything, so I only get half a page. Going on to agenda item 5, this is a reference from the Governance and Audit Committee on the 24th of March in relation to the corporate risk Q3 update, and it covered the period from April 24 through to the end of December 24. And the recommendation from them was that they made a number of recommendations, 5 in total, but the only one that there were 2 that were relevant to us. Firstly, that Cabinet be advised of the views of the Governance and Audit Committee that it should be aware of the increased risk and direction of travel for the following risks: additional learning needs, information and cyber security risk, climate change and nature emergency risk, social care demand and capacity risk, and the physical assets risk. They also asked that we be advised of the concerns of heightened risks in terms of financial resources and the Barry Regeneration Making Waves project, and that the strategic leadership team be requested to consider these risks in detail. I think I can reassure the committee that actually all of those risks are frequently on SLT agenda and are under frequent discussion by Cabinet, either formally or informally. So if we could reassure them on that. And I would move that we note those recommendations.
And I'll second those recommendations.
And I can't see any dissent, so that is agreed as well. The agenda item 6 is the Q3 update of the Audit Wales Work Programme 2024, and this has been referred to us for Cabinet oversight. It ranged, a number of various points really that, if I go through my notes, it was talking about the Council's annual audit summary report for 24-25. That's scheduled for issue in June, so that'll obviously be coming to us. It gives the time schedules for accounts, etc. Sort of talking about us getting an unqualified audit opinion in the 23-24, but the 2024-25 accounts are timetabled to come to us on the 31st of October. Looking down from paragraph 2.5 onwards down to about 2.9, it lists the range of various reports, etc., that are being undertaken. So with the understanding that that their work is being done, it's interesting that there is so much work being done to evaluate our actions and our performance from various regulatory bodies, that it does give reassurance to members of the public and also to the council that we are performing well, and I think that's reassuring for everyone. So the recommendation was for us to have oversight. I think that the report does that. So I'm happy to move we note.
And I'll second that.
Great. Thanks. And agenda item 5 is, sorry, not agenda item 5, it's agenda item 7, going backwards, is the Corporate Resources Directorate Plan 2025-26. This is a reference from Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee on the 9th of April. And this reference, or the committee actually pulled together all of the contributions from the various scrutiny committees to feed back to us. And if there are a whole range of recommendations, but seeing as how we are going to be dealing with this under agenda item 9, I would move that for now we note the reference and we will discuss it as part of agenda item 9 if everyone's happy with that. So I'd move we note.
And I'll second that.
So moving on to the, if I can get it to work, yes we are, agenda item 8. And this is the annual delivery plan monitoring report, and that's for the Q3 performance. And more frequently, we have moved to a presentation format in terms of bringing these results to scrutiny committees to make them more accessible. And that report is actually appended at Appendix A to the report. If you want to see the service plan actions contributing to the wellbeing objection, you can find those at Appendix B. So bearing in mind that this performance was actually said Q3 went up to Christmas, we will soon be evaluating the full year's performance as part of the self-assessment process, which will be will be starting within the coming few weeks. So that will all be coming forward to us. Just let me move in to the So if we have a look, as I mentioned before, this has been round to all scrutiny committees, and you can have a look at paragraph 2.7 through to 2.12, and that all scrutinies have had presentations on the report and have discussed it. If all the scrutinies noted the report and they noted the remedial actions to be taken to address areas of underperformance and to tackle key challenges identified within the remit of the committee. So there's nothing specific to discuss from those. That came out of the committees, but there were a few. If I go back to hang on, agenda item 6. I just need to go back to the ones that came out from there. No, it's not. I'm going to have to go back to paper, I think, but it's 5. It's all right. I was looking at the wrong one.
7.
No, it's 5.
5, sorry, yeah.
It's that one. Yes, 4, in fact. I know that there were a number of items that I wanted to bring up in this. Yeah, there were queries brought up in terms of, if I can find it, questions around ALN pupils. Thanks, Pat. You found. I knew I was looking for it somewhere. Yes, they were looking at into the statistics in relation to fixed term exclusions and ALM pupils. Also, they want to know more about pupil attainment levels in relation to reading and literacy, and also wanted to look at working in partnership across the council to look at school transport services. Where possible, make use of public transport. I think it's interesting to know that next week there's going to be a learner travel summit organised by Welsh Government, which I'll be attending, and hopefully we'll be sharing good practice there and hopefully looking at tackling some of the major issues that we have, and also exploring the opportunities that we have, particularly with the £1 flat rate fare that will be coming in, to look at whether or not there are things that we can do to help young people use public transport more, which will benefit them. But at the same time, if that helps our bus services and train services to become more sustainable, all the good. So that's very opportune coming from the scrutiny, and we will be contributing to that. So. I will be doing that next Friday, I think. So yes, I can go back to where I was. So the recommendations that we've got before us, just got 2 at the moment, and that's that Cabinet considers the Q3 performance results and progress towards achieving the annual delivery plan 2024-25 commitments as aligned to the Vale of Glamorgan Council's corporate plan wellbeing objectives, and that Cabinet considers the views and recommendations of scrutiny committees in relation to Q3 performance and approve identified remedial actions as a basis to address areas of underperformance and to tackle the key issues the key challenges identified. I'm happy to move that we note the performance or recommendations 1 and 2. We need to formally approve them as well.
Endorse recommendation 2. No recommendation.
Yes.
So endorse recommendation 1 and note recommendation 2.
Right. So we shall endorse recommendation 1 and note recommendation 2, and look forward to further scrutinising them as a whole in the forthcoming self-assessment process.
Okay. And I'll formally second those for the record as well.
Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 9. This is the Vale Glamorgan Annual Statement 2025-26 and Directorate Plans for 2025-26. That includes planned activities, performance measures and associated performance targets to deliver Vale 2030, the Council's corporate plan. And I think that this is interesting, that this is in effect the final part in the chain, where we started off developing a corporate plan. We've been looking through the annual delivery plan. We've then been looking at service plans, how we actually deliver those, and that's also provided the background to how the budget is developed. So all these things fit together, and hopefully with the new scrutiny structure we will be able to get into the detail of how these are being delivered, how they're working, and what else we could be doing. So this is actually, I think this is quite a step change in the way that we're going to do it. So the report, as I said earlier, actually presents the sort of activities and how we're going to measure them and the various targets. They're based around our wellbeing objectives. We've got 5 of those, and we've got 50 commitments in the Vale 2030. Some of those come from what we've decided to do in terms of corporate plan, but some are to do with our statutory obligations. So they are also measured, as we've seen, by our statutory regulatory bodies. All the directorate plans have been reported to scrutiny committees, and where they sort of fit most effectively. Obviously, the new scrutiny structure has been designed to fit more accurately on this and have been geared towards outcomes. So we should see that working more effectively as we go forward. And there have been there has been feedback from scrutiny committees, which was gathered together. It was collated by Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee. And so we've got, those are in the report as well. The progress, as I said, it's against the Vale 2030 commitments will be monitored and reported in line with the corporate performance arrangements, and they obviously now will be going to the relevant scrutiny committees. It's worth having a look as we go through. It's worth having a look at the Vale Glamorgan annual statement, which is at Appendix B, which hopefully explains clearly what we hope to do this year. And it will provide a focus for what we hope to do, and if things are going off track, how we're going to mend those. And that's been informed by the 5 directorate plans, which are quite substantial, but they're at Appendix A, if anybody wants to see them. So just whizzing through on there. Hang on. If you have a look. At, just trying to get back to front. If you look at paragraph 2.14, that's where all the scrutiny committees reported in and their comments and recommendations. And also the third column is the proposed response. So what would be the outcome of the comments that have been made. So there's a comment from Learning and Culture about the need for more resources in the area of additional learning needs. And the department have come back and said that there wouldn't be any change because these are already addressed through the existing actions within the Learning and Skills Directorate plan on additional learning needs and specialist provision. Now, how that would work out is that when that report is being scrutinised, the questions would be asked, are we meeting our targets in terms of additional learning needs? And if we're not, where does that go? So we can be much more objective on that. If you have a look at some of the others, just trying to find something that's not too long. They're saying that there's one about the use of volunteers, and the plans around the support and use of volunteers were welcomed, and the council should consider encouraging, supporting and incentivising local residents to become volunteers. And they've said, well, there's no change necessary to the actual directorate plan, but it will be explored as part of the reshaping work. And the council has a scheme in place, which is Value in the Vale, which is run by Housing Services team. So you can go through and you can see all the comments that were made by scrutinies and what the response was in relation to the plan. And as I mentioned, the Appendix B, which is the statement, actually says of the various things that we would be proposing to do this year. One of those on there, for Mark's reference, is the piloting of soft plastics collection, which is already going very well. But there's also things like another a repeat survey of let's talk about life in the Vale, so we can further get people's views. But then there's also more service-led things about the expansion of the Flying Start childcare offer, providing more accommodation for children in contact with social services to live locally. That's only one line, but that's such a hugely important thing that we do, and there's a whole range of them there. So I think it's a really accessible document on this. I hope that people will find it easier to engage. So we've just got 3 recommendations on this item, and that is firstly that Cabinet considers their response to feedback from all 5 scrutiny committees regarding the planned directorate activities, performance measures and associated targets for 2025-26 as contained in directorate plans, which is Appendix A, and is detailed in the composite reference from Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee in its role as lead committee for performance, as well as the proposed responses from officers as highlighted in paragraph 214 of this report. Secondly, that subject to recommendation 1, Cabinet approves the planned directorate activities, performance measures and associated targets for 2025-26 as contained in directorate plans, and that's Appendix A again, and reflective of the considerations in this report. And thirdly, and finally, that Cabinet reviews and approves the Vale Glamorgan Annual Statement 2025-26, and that is Appendix B. And I'd move.
And I'll second those recommendations.
Thank you. Mark, you've got your hand up. I bet it's about soft plastic.
It's about a few things. Obviously, can I thank the residents in the Eastern Vale, and that also includes places like Penarth, Clandock, Sully and Dinners Palace, for contributing to the soft plastics trial that's going really well. I think last week we collected almost 2.5 tonnes, which is 2,500 kilograms, and that considered soft plastic as a relatively light material. That's some achievement. And can I thank the residents and also our officers for supporting that. The other thing is, also I'd like people to note that on page 71 on the actual appendices, there is a target for next year of planting 2,500 trees within the Vale Glamorgan. And these are sort of like the targets we are achieving. So even this year, last year, we achieved a target of 2,393. So, you know, we are very serious about our tree strategy, very pleased that we are delivering on that. And I know that in many communities, people are not just seeing trees planted in our countryside by the Vale, but also in our urban tree areas as well, in our urban areas. And I think that is something that I look forward to see even more. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I agree. And I actually think that it would be really super if people could look around where they live and see if there are places that we could investigate for planting more trees. Because actually, if you've got a tree planted outside your house, it's very easy to go out with a watering can full of water, as we found in some areas where local residents have actually adopted newly planted trees and helped them to survive much more effectively. So, yeah, that would be good. Thank you. Gwyn, you're indicating.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to mention just one thing, basically. And in the corporate plan, we make sure there are affordable and accessible ways for people to participate in leisure, play, sport, cultural and heritage activities. Now, our target on this is that leisure contract extended and the site of former C1V offices redeveloped to provide additional indoor sporting opportunities. That will be ready shortly. Play and sport development program for 25-26 is implemented. And the outcome of this would be, we hope, would be increased leisure centre members, general user numbers increases, an increase over previous years in the number of children involved in our sports and play activities. And we're also planning in the next year to secure an extension to the current leisure contract up until 2034. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwyn. Yes, that would be useful if we could do that and have certainty, because I know that other councils have challenges with their leisure services. So that's been moved and seconded, and I can't see any dissent, so that's agreed. The next report is a standard housekeeping report that comes to us following the use of the Chief Executive's emergency powers. These are normally things where, you know, we've had a grant and we want to actually use it quickly, or we've agreed building or some sort of maintenance contract, and it's gone through a standard process, but we want to get it up and running. So they are outlined from paragraph 2.1 onwards. Said fairly straightforward. So I would move that we note the use of the Chief Exec's powers.
And I'll second that as well.
And everyone's happy with that, so that's fine. Agenda item 11. This is a part 1 report. We have a subsequent part 2 report at agenda item 16 later on. So this in effect is about the migration of the council's core computing and storage infrastructure to a hybrid cloud environment. It's quite a challenging environment currently, where to ensure that councils are fully protected, one, against any loss of information should there be any sort of catastrophe in their infrastructure, or in terms of security. So more and more councils are looking at the way forward, and this is the work that we've looked on that. At the moment, we have information held on servers within the council, but the infrastructure is ageing, I think we have to say, and it will need a full replacement within 5 years. There was an issue with cooling the hardware back in 2023, and I think that more than anything showed us how vulnerable we were to using a single site, and from that perspective, our damage recovery capability was shown to be restricted. And again, we need to think of that, because if you actually think about what we do as an organisation, apart from the information that we hold, the information that we hold is to allow us to provide services to the population of the Vale. And so if the information on people we provide care services to goes down, then that could put people at risk. There were a number of things that have been looked into, and if you look at paragraph 2, actually lays it out. So first of all, there is the case for change, and talking about the alignment with digital strategy and the actual overall national direction in this area. Also, if looking from paragraph 2.4, the operational risk and resilience, and as is laid out there, the existing data centre infrastructure is no longer fit for purpose. So there is an opportunity to build a resilient secondary site at the Alps depot, but that would mean considerable investment as well. Paragraph 2.6 onwards talks about the cost avoidance and the long-term efficiency, and actually lays it out all there. And then the next section from paragraph 213 talks about scalability to support innovation, and that's quite important to us, because as a council we actually want to increasingly use digitisation to improve the services that we can provide for Vale residents. The paragraph 2.16 is where we talk about environmental sustainability, and with this actually moving to a cloud infrastructure offers lower carbon emissions, and if purpose-built data centres operated by cloud providers are designed to run at peak efficiency, which we as a single organisation would not be able to do. And as I said, and the other areas that have been looked at, which are listed there, are resilience and business continuity, security and compliance, and innovation and modernisation. And I suppose the big one for a public sector organisation, which is at paragraph 220, is related to risks and mitigations, and paragraph 221 talks about service disruption during migration. It's also cost management in the cloud, data governance and compliance, etc., etc. And a technical thing about vendor lock-in, so whether or not we get stuck with one supplier, and there's consideration of that. So actually the team have done a really super job of going through this, and there's some other stuff about timelines and things, should we agree with it. So as I said, we're going to discuss it further under part 2, because this is actually looking at procurement, so we wouldn't be talking about the finances at this point. But the 3 recommendations that we've got in relation to this today are, firstly, that Cabinet approves the strategy as described in this report for the implementation of the programme of work to mitigate the Council's computing and storage infrastructure to the cloud. So this would be moving over to a cloud-based solution. Secondly, that Cabinet considers the associated Part 2 report on this agenda with a view to taking decisions on the completion of a procurement exercise and subsequent award of a contract to a preferred supplier within the costs outlined in this report, including the use of the digital reserve. And 3, that Cabinet notes the anticipated offset of revenue costs by eliminating capital investment requirements and the requirement to recognise a future pressure on the council's revenue budget, and I would move.
And I'll second those recommendations.
And I can see that Eddie's got his hand up.
Thanks, Leader. It's not until you get a report like this, particularly a technical one, there's a new language involved, isn't there? So, and that's something which we've been dealing with. But when you highlight things like the disaster recovery and that we, you know, the shortfall in that, the case is made for us. And I give credit to the officer in putting this case forward. It's not only the fact that we've been given options, and those options are clear. So hopefully when we come to part 2, we'll be made able to make a good decision on that side of things. Just wanted to explain, just to make people aware that the language used within IT is a challenge, and we've had to go through a learning curve for it. So thank you for that.
We have, and we've had numerous briefing sessions and numerous long discussions on this. But as I said, I would echo your thanks to the team who have worked really hard to pull this together. Yes, I can say thank you. Mark, over to you.
I'm going to make a point about the advantages of cloud-based systems. Not only you are backed up by significant infrastructure elsewhere, but also it means that you do not need a big server room with lawful massive amounts of heat that has to be generated, not to heat to what I'm saying, to generate fans, and to that energy is huge amounts in order to cool down the machines. Imagine in this weather in particular, when it's very warm, like 27 degrees outside, you imagine in a server room, the fans will have to work really, really hard. And this avoids this, to be honest, within the Alps. And also it's very much part of our commitment to Project Zero, and the council's always declared a climate emergency. You know, so I think it really works with what we are trying to do as a council, and I think it's very much, you know, future-proof as well. So I'm, you know, very pleased to support this report, and I think the officer responsible has done a really good job. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Mark. And as I said, it's comprehensive information sessions with Cabinet as well, and any question, no matter how minor to our IT colleagues, have been answered very kindly, and I haven't been made to feel totally thick on it. But yeah, so as I said, those were the recommendations. Moved and seconded, everybody's in agreement, so that's fine. We'll move forward. Next agenda item. It's one I'm really, really thrilled about, actually. This is an update, agenda item 12, an update on Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, and that is in relation to St Richard Gwyn. So it's over to Cabinet Member for Education, Arts and Welsh Language, Rhiannon.
Thank you. So this is an update on, as Liz has said, Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, St Richard Gwyn in Barry. 20th of July 23, the Council's Cabinet authorised the Director of Learning and Skills to undertake consultation on the proposal to make an alteration of the School Organisation Code to increase the capacity of St Richard Gwyn High School from 813 places to 1,050 places, and this proposal will also include a 60-place SRB unit. Welsh Government in December approved the rolling strategic outline programme for the Sustainable Communities of Learning. This included St Richard Gwyn High School. There are some important things we need to think about. May last year, we invited tenders for the construction of St Richard Gwyn. Total construction cost for the scheme was estimated at 59 million. Overall project budget of over 64 million. March this year, the contractor provided the Vale Council with a second stage proposal for contract, including costs for all the work packages under the project. They issued the tender to the subcontractors on a not to exceed figure rather than a competitive tender. And the total of the work packages returned from subcontractors total 63.9 million. This is over the 59 million construction cost we had anticipated, but there is opportunity to bring the figure down when undertaking value engineering through project delivery. Morgan Sindall will competitively tender the scheme to their supply chain once the design is fully complete. Once this stage 4 design has been completed, they will be then in a position to receive accurate prices from their supply chain. As we all know, all supplies of building materials and even the cost of importing them and paying workers or skilled workers is increasing all the time. So an estimate from last year is going to be significantly under what the estimate would be this time this year. So these costs are based on worst case scenario. Discussion from relevant stakeholders, the not to exceed figure will reduce to align with the available budget. The Sustainable Communities for Learning team would also look at other approaches to ensure the project stays within budget. Morgan Sindall will be going out to the market over the next 2 months for all cost packages under a competitive tender scenario, and a further Cabinet report will be submitted to seek Cabinet approval for this. Oops, I lost my notes. Where are we? If you look at page 7 of the report, there is a detailed breakdown of where the funding is coming from for this project. At this stage, there's no financial commitment. We want approval from Cabinet to proceed with the submission for the funding. Because of various grants and money from Welsh Government, the Council's contribution will be 8.987 million, but 5 million of this is net zero carbon grant, 100% funded by Welsh Government. So prudential borrowing will be in the region of £3,912. And I think that this demonstrates that the Council is completely committed to 21st century standard schools for all of our children. This will be the last of the secondary school in the Vale to be rebuilt. And obviously we would want it to be as up to date and as high a standard as the ones that have already been completed, even though that borrowing is going to result in a total revenue repayment of about 162,000 per annum for the next 50 years. Obviously we hope and expect the school to last that long. So I'd like to take us to the recommendations, please. That Cabinet provides approval to submit the full business case for St Richard Gwyn High School to Welsh Government, and that the use of section 15.14 of the Council Constitution urgent decision procedure be authorised in order for the Sustainable Communities for Learning team to submit the full business case by the 2nd of May deadline.
Thanks, Rhiannon, and I'm delighted to second that. I think it's very relevant to talk about the finance. And whenever we've opened a new school, we've always wanted to say to children that they are worth every pound that we spend on their new school, and we hope it's an investment in their future. There was a big question, there's a big discussion about that. Nearly 4 million that we were short on this, and should we put it off until we could afford it and find the money. But we felt this was our final school, our final secondary school to renew in just over 10 years, and we felt it had to go forward. So we hope the people of the Vale will agree that an investment of 162,000 a year for the next 50 years is just what these children are worth. And I had an email from Ysgol Derry earlier today, and it made me think that when we built Penarth Learning Community, we built 2 schools for 50 million, and now we're building 1 school for 64. These are the ways that prices have gone up, but this is the future of our young people. So absolutely delighted to second. I can't see any dissent, so that's agreed as well. So good news for them. Agenda item 13, more good news, is report for Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services in relation to asset transfers, Llantwit Major Town Council.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, I'm very pleased to bring this report. We have quite a few processes involved in getting here, but at last we are here. And so I'm really delighted, and I'd like to thank the officers for working really hard on this in the background. And I also know that Llantwit Major Town Council, as a partner in this, has also worked very hard along with their members. So we had, a couple of years ago, we had a request from Llantwit Major Town Council to transfer the Town Hall car park and toilets, and that includes Boverton Road car park, Wine Street car park and Boverton Road toilets, by way of a long-term lease. Now, obviously, we have considered this, and this is very much part of our 2018 protocol of what we call community asset transfers. And obviously that is based upon Cabinet Minutes C353 and C401, if people want to read that, way back on the 3rd September 2018. So obviously when we transfer assets over, we do it on a long-term lease basis. We don't give them a freehold, we give them a long-term lease. My understanding that lease is for a period of 99 years. And obviously that lease is also contingent upon the roof repairs being completed to the satisfaction of the town council, because it's very much a partnership between the Vale and the town council, along with only other community councils that we do stock transfers. Obviously, that's very good news, and I'd like to move now to the recommendations, which there are 3. That authority is granted to transfer the Town Hall car park and toilets, Boverton Road car park, Wine Street car park and Boverton Road toilets in Llantwit Major to Llantwit Major Town Council via 99-year lease in accordance with the Council's Community Asset Transfer Guidance 2019 to 2023 for the operation and transfer of assets or services to town and community councils in the Vale Glamorgan. That's number 1. Number 2, that subject to recommendation 1, the Director of Environment and Housing, in consultation with Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Property Building Services, the Head of Finance, Section 151 Officer, and the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic, be authorised to agree terms and conditions for the 99-year lease to Llantwit Major Town Council for peppercorn rents, and including covenants to maintain the existing assets for the same purpose. And final recommendation, number 3, that delegated authority is granted to the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic Services, to prepare and complete all necessary documentation in connection with the transfer of the land to Llantwit Major Town Council, and I so move.
Thanks, Mark. And I can see that Gwyn's got his hand up. I'm sure you want to speak on this.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, very much. I'm absolutely delighted that agreement has been reached between Llantwit Town Council and ourselves, and this has been a long time coming, but certainly now that we're there, I'm sure that it's secured the future of the car parks for the town for free use for the long-term future, and I would like to second this recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwyn. I can see that Eddie wants to come in. I did avoid seconding it prematurely because I thought somebody would want to. Over to you, Eddie.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, this is a good news story, isn't it? That the local community are going to be able to impact on an asset that is relevant to them. And it's been highlighted in the recent months with the toilets refurbishment that the number of people we have, both residents and tourists coming into the area, of a need of the toilets. So for me, it was a concern, as it was for town council, that these weren't going to be refurbished as such. But thankfully, there's been some negotiation and discussion and agreement, and the outcome of this is excellent news. And I know the local town council will be looking forward to this transfer taking place. So thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. So we've had it moved, Gwyn seconded, and everybody's in agreement. So that's passed. Thank you. And our last part 1 item is a report for the Cabinet Member for Community Engagement, Equalities and Regulatory Services in relation to Vale Glamorgan Replacement Local Development Plan. So that's over to you, Ruba.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an update on the Replacement Local Development Plan for 2021-2036. Cabinet will recall that the preferred strategy for the replacement local development plan was consulted on at the end of 2023, and a consultation report detailing the comments made through the consultation process was subsequently considered by full council in September last year, where it was endorsed that the preferred strategy should form the basis for the deposit plan, which is the next stage of the RLDP preparation. The preferred strategy, you'll remember, had 5 key sites which would deliver a significant part of the overall housing requirement for the Vale of Glamorgan. And as part of the preparation of the deposit plan, it's necessary to consider in more detail the deliverability of these sites as such, and the replacement local development plan should only allocate land that can realistically come forward for development, and where there are any barriers to delivery, that these can be overcome, or if not, we have to reconsider. So the nature of the constraints will differ on a site-by-site basis, but one of the considerations common to all sites is land ownership. So through the ongoing discussions with the site promoters, it came to light, or it's come to light, that there are deliverability issues associated with the largest of the 5 sites, which is the Northeast Barry site, which is off Argyle Lane, and that's due to the site. So as I mentioned about land ownership, this is specifically to do with the ownership of by several different landowners of that whole site. So officers have looked in detail at this, and we didn't have enough reassurance around agreements between the different landowners that this could be delivered. So, as is our duty, it's not been possible to secure that agreement to bring the site forward for the number of units and the mixed uses that we would require to deliver a sustainable urban extension that delivers, on our placemaking principles. So as a consequence, it's proposed that the site is no longer taken forward as an allocation within the deposit for our replacement local development plan. So it's therefore been necessary for us to look at alternative sites to replace this key site with another site or sites within Barry, which is our most sustainable settlement in the Vale in terms of good transport links, employment opportunities, and a wide range of services and facilities. And it really is the largest area with the highest affordable housing need. And we as a cabinet have discussed this many times previously, in fact, and discussed it again when I brought this to full council. So following a detailed assessment of the available candidate sites, 3 sites in Barry have been identified as being suitable for further consideration. And the report seeks endorsement to undertake a public consultation on these sites as potential housing allocations. Now, the sites are land at Northwest Barry, land at Hayes Lane, the Bendricks, and land at Neptune Road on Barry waterfront. Now, collectively, these sites would deliver nearly 500 much-needed homes, including critically affordable housing, as well as infrastructure improvements. So we're keen to hear the views of the public on these sites during the public consultation, which will be held. A timetable. We'll give a timetable for this, obviously after Cabinet has approved this. So the report has 3 recommendations, which I would ask Cabinet to consider and endorse. The first is that Cabinet approves this document, and it's at the appendix, and it is a lengthy document, but it does detail all the considerations we need to make when we are considering viable sites. So I'm asking Cabinet firstly to approve this housing growth in Barry document and the report attached, and refer it to the relevant scrutiny committee, which, as we know now, after Monday's full council, will be place for consideration and for public consultation purposes. Secondly, the second recommendation is that delegated authority be granted to the head of sustainable development and or the director of place to make any typographical or other minor changes as necessary prior to the public consultation. And lastly, thirdly, that a further report is presented to Cabinet and considered by the relevant scrutiny committee and council to report the findings of the public consultation exercise, which will serve as part of the evidence base for the deposit replacement local development plan, and before we report on that going forward. So I would move those 3 recommendations.
Thanks, Ruba. And I'm happy to second that. Again, I know that there's been a huge amount of discussion ongoing to try and find appropriate sites to meet the housing need that we have in the Vale. And so really looking forward to the conversations with the public about them during the consultation. So yeah, thanks for that. I cannot see any hands raised in the chamber, so that's agreed. Thank you. So the final item on the agenda will be well, we don't have any other items under part 1 or any urgent items. So agenda item 16 is a part 2 item, which is linked back to agenda item 11. These are matters that are considered to be confidential. So, you know, in this case, it would be we're moving into procurement. There's got to be there are going to be confidential financial issues. So therefore, the meeting needs to move into private session where such matters can be discussed under part 2. So if I can ask, I need to ask Cabinet to agree to move to part 2 and ask the Cabinet Officer to stop the recording of this open session to ensure that no members of the public are present after this point and only relevant parties remain to hear the detail of the items to be discussed. But after the meeting, the outcome of the part 2 discussions will be formally captured as part of the minutes of the meeting and will advise all parties of the decisions of the Cabinet for the relevant items. So therefore, can I formally move part 2?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And ask the Cabinet Officer to ensure only relevant parties remain from this point on and for the live stream and recording to be stopped, please.